Hi, good evening. I'm Sean Hepburn Ferrer, and I'm so honored to be here. We lost our mother 21 years ago now. I don't know if you all saw it. This last Sunday would have been her 85th birthday, and she got a Google Doodle. I don't know if anybody saw that. That was a nice thing. I remember when we found out, she had been complaining of feeling uncomfortable after her trip to Somalia, and finally decided to do some investigative surgery. And when we were finally told what it was, it's easy for me to go back to that moment and to the depth with which we all looked into how we could save not just our mother, but this extraordinary woman who was changing the course of history in some of these sub-Saharan countries, African countries. At the time, we were losing over 45,000 children every day from preventable causes. Today, thank God, that number's down to 19,000. And hopefully, on its way to zero one day. 20 years ago, pseudomyxoma, which is the type of rare cancer that she contracted, was not curable. They tried to give her chemotherapy that had been available since the 60s, but within a few days after the first operation, she had another occlusion, and within 2 months of her originally discovering what she had, she was gone. Today, a 5-year remission with respect to this particular kind of cancer is the standard. So I'm standing up here to tell you that 20 years after the disease took Audrey Hepburn, this cancer has been put in check, has been controlled. Now, it's not cured, but the woman who recommended me for this position as Rare Disease Ambassador for EURORDIS, the European Organization for Rare Diseases, is the head of pseudomyxoma survivor, and she came to the party. I sat next to her and with her daughters. She's been living with the disease for 5 years. She wore a beautiful, sexy green velvet dress, and we had a ball that night. So that's a very, very different picture to the one that we lived with 20 years ago. And so as I remember the feelings of what I would have given to save this woman, not just to save my mother, but to save someone who was so valuable, I can only imagine knowing what the numbers are within rare disease and how many children are affected. It's unthinkable, yet easy to realize what these parents are living with every day. And having lived a life for the past 20 years of trying to make a difference in the world of preventable death, and preventable issues, I can only imagine what it's like to feel when it's not preventable, and life is so precious. I will leave you with one thought, because I'm not a scientist. I am new to this, although I'm not new to the world of awareness and fundraising. But the man who was probably the most legendary head of UNICEF since its inception after the war was a man by the name of Jim Grant. He really was what we refer to as being the sort of JFK of the UNICEF world. And he passed away from the same type of cancer my mother contracted 6 months after her. And that has stayed with me for the last 20 years. I never forgot that. Something did not really jive in my mind. Today there is a new science called complex system science. It's a very, very sophisticated mathematical series of equations which enable this science to address big data, which is the world that we live in. So many companies accumulate big data, but they don't know what to do with it. These people, for the past 20 years, have been working on it. And it is my personal dream to find the funding to have a research done of all 6,000 to 8,000 diseases and see if there is one thing that unites them, one smoking gun, one common factor. And I believe, and this is a very innocent point of view of a non-scientific person, that if we were able to find something that touches all of them, or some pattern, that it may help all of you. And worst case scenario, even if we didn't, we may be able just to be able to, by gathering all of the research into one data pool, maybe that already would do something. Anyway, I'm honored to be up here. I will do what I can. After we're done, I've written a little book about a friend who lived with and passed away from McCune Albright, which is a very rare disease as well. He was a wonderful artist from Uruguay, and I wrote a little children's book about his life, which I will be autographing after dinner. So, I ate that terrible chocolate thing, by the way. I ate it all. Thank you all for having me.